You walk into an auto parts store to grab an air filter, and somehow you leave with a cart full of tools you weren't planning to buy: a code reader, an oil drain pan, a socket set, a pair of ramps, some creeper thing you've never used, and a plastic organizer you absolutely did not need. And then half of it sits in the garage for 3 years, while you keep paying the shop $80 an hour for jobs you could have handled yourself. Here's what nobody tells you up front. You don't need a wall full of tools to do real DIY work on your car. You need the right tools. A handful of well-chosen items will cover the majority of common repairs and save you hundreds, sometimes over $1,000 a year. But there are also tools that get marketed hard to weekend mechanics. Tools that look essential in the YouTube thumbnails, and tools that most average drivers simply don't need and won't use correctly anyway. Hit subscribe before we get into this, because I'm going to save you money twice today. Once on repair bills, and once on tools you are about to buy for no good reason. I'm Jerry Davis, and after spending years around repairs, used cars, and the mistakes that cost drivers the most money, I can tell you that buying the wrong tool is almost as expensive as buying the wrong part. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to spend your money on, what to skip, and why the difference matters more than most people realize. Let's start with the 10 tools that will actually pay for themselves. The first one is an OBD2 scanner, and if you don't already own one, stop what you're doing and fix that problem. A basic code reader will run you anywhere from $25 to $60. And the first time your check engine light comes on, it saves you a diagnostic fee that most shops charge between $100 and $150 just to read the same code. Now, I want to be clear about something. Reading a code does not tell you which part to replace. It tells you which system or circuit is reporting a fault. That's an important distinction. And I'll say it again. A P0420 code is not a catalytic converter. It's a signal that the catalytic converter efficiency is below threshold, which could also be caused by an oxygen sensor, an exhaust leak, or oil burning. But owning a scanner means you're starting the conversation with information, instead of just handing your car over blind. Get a mid-range one that shows live data. That's worth the extra $20 over a bare-bones blink reader. Second tool. A torque wrench. This one bothers me because people either skip it entirely or they buy one and never use it. Over-tightening is one of the most common DIY mistakes there is. Stripped drain plugs, cracked plastic oil pans, warped brake rotors, stretched head bolts. A lot of those problems start because someone cranked something down until it felt tight, instead of using the spec. A half-inch drive-click type torque wrench in the 40 to 250 foot-pound range covers brakes, lug nuts, drain plugs, and most suspension fasteners. Don't use it to break fasteners loose. That's not what it's designed for. Use it on the way in, torque to spec, and move on. A decent torque wrench costs $40 to $60 and lasts years if you store it correctly. Back off the tension when you're done, and keep it out of the bottom of a toolbox where it'll get abused. Third, a floor jack and a set of jack stands. Not the little scissor jack that came in your trunk. A 2-ton hydraulic floor jack and 2 jack stands rated for your vehicle's weight. This is a safety issue before it's a money issue. Owners frequently report injuries and fatalities connected to vehicles slipping off scissor jacks and cheap single-point lifts. If you're getting under a car for any reason, brake job, oil change, exhaust repair, suspension work, you need proper lifting equipment. A decent floor jack runs $60 to $100. Jack stands are another $20 to $40. Buy them once, use them for a decade, and never crawl under a car supported by a bottle jack or a stack of wood again. This is the one item on this list where going too cheap is genuinely dangerous. Fourth tool, a digital multimeter. Electrical problems are the fastest way to spend money at a shop because electrical diagnosis takes time, and most drivers have no idea what's happening. A multimeter lets you test battery voltage, check for parasitic draw, verify alternator output, test fuses, and confirm ground connections before you start guessing. A good entry-level digital multimeter costs about $25 to $40. Technicians commonly see cars come in for expensive alternator replacements when the real problem was a corroded ground cable that took 15 minutes to fix. A multimeter and a basic understanding of how to use it will catch those issues before you're $300 into a part that wasn't bad to begin with. Fifth, an oil filter wrench. Not just any one, though. There are a dozen styles, and which one you need depends on your vehicle. The strap wrench style is the most universal. The cap style fits specific filter housings and works better if you've got a newer vehicle with a cartridge-style filter sitting inside a plastic housing. The reason this matters is that oil filters get put on by a machine at the factory or over-tightened by the last shop, and they will not come off by hand. Get the right style for your car, and your oil change gets a lot less frustrating. Sixth, a brake caliper windback tool. If you're planning to do your own rear disc brakes, this is not optional. Rear calipers on most vehicles don't just compress inward. The piston has to be rotated and pressed simultaneously. Trying to do that with a screwdriver and a C-clamp will damage the piston seal and potentially ruin a caliper you just paid $60 for. The windback toolkit typically runs $15 to $30 and covers most domestic and import applications. This is one of those cases where the right tool protects the parts you're already buying. Seventh, a breaker bar. A half-inch drive, at least 18 inches long. Some fasteners on a car have been in place for years, exposed to heat, cold, salt, and corrosion. A ratchet will strip before it breaks them loose. A breaker bar gives you leverage without risking a tool failure mid-pull. Pair it with a quality socket, and it'll handle lug nuts, axle bolts, and suspension hardware that won't move any other way. You can get a good one for $15 to $25, and it will outlast most of the power tools in your garage. Eighth, a trim removal tool set. Interior work, replacing speakers, door panels, center consoles, switches, lighting, gets ruined by people trying to pry plastic trim with flathead screwdrivers. Those plastic retaining clips cost almost nothing, but if you break them, the panel rattles forever and the repair looks sloppy. A basic plastic trim removal set costs $8 to $15 and keeps you from destroying interior pieces that are increasingly hard to find on older vehicles. Owners frequently report that this is the most underrated, cheap tool purchase they've made. Ninth, a spark plug socket set with rubber inserts. A regular socket will drop a spark plug into the well, and on certain engines, getting it back out becomes a 20-minute problem. The rubber insert grips the plug so you can remove and install without dropping anything. Deep well versions matter too, since many modern engines have plugs recessed several inches into the head. A set covering the common sizes runs about $15 to $25 and makes one of the most common tune-up jobs straightforward. 10th, and this one is particularly useful if you're buying or selling a used car, a compression tester. Engine compression tells you a lot about internal condition. Low compression across all cylinders can point to timing issues or high mileage wear. Low compression on one cylinder specifically suggests a valve problem, a worn ring, or a head gasket concern. This won't give you a complete picture. You'd want a leak down test to go deeper, but a basic compression tester in the $30 to $50 range gives you a quick snapshot of engine health before you spend money on a car or authorize a major repair. It's the kind of tool that can save you from a $4,000 mistake in about 10 minutes. Now let's talk about the 5 tools most DIYers do not need, even though they're sold hard to people who are just getting started. First, a professional-grade scan tool from a brand like Snap-on, Autel, or Launch in the $1,000 to $3,000 range. These are extraordinary tools. Shops use them because they access manufacturer-specific data, bidirectional controls, module programming, and live data streams that basic scanners can't touch. But for the driver who changes their own brakes, does their own oil, and wants to read their own codes, a quality mid-range Bluetooth scanner paired with a free or low-cost app covers nearly everything you'll actually need. The professional tools are for professionals, and they're priced that way for a reason. Don't spend $300 on an intermediate scan tool when a $60 one does the same 4 things you're going to use it for. Second, a cheap corded or cordless impact wrench from the bottom of the bargain bin. Look, I understand the appeal. Power tools feel serious, but a low-quality impact wrench with no torque control will strip threads, snap bolts, and over-torque fasteners in a way that costs you far more than the tool saved. If you want an impact wrench for removing lug nuts and doing the occasional suspension job, spend a little more and get something from a brand that holds calibration and gives you adjustable settings. A bad impact wrench is not a tool. It's an expensive way to create more repairs. Third, a DIY fuel injection cleaning kit. Specifically, the kind that hooks into the fuel rail and runs cleaner directly through the injectors. In theory, this sounds useful. In practice, the results are inconsistent, the setup is involved. Owners frequently report that the improvement is minimal on engines that don't already have a carbon buildup problem. And on direct injection engines, these kits don't address intake valve deposits at all. For most drivers, a quality fuel system cleaner added to a full tank periodically, or a professional induction cleaning done every few years if symptoms warranted, is a more appropriate and cost-effective approach. The rail pressure cleaning kits sit in garages and get used once. Fourth, a timing light. This drives me a little bit nuts because people still buy them without understanding that virtually every vehicle built after the mid-1990s has distributorless ignition and computer-controlled timing. There is no distributor to adjust. There is no timing curve to set with a light. The ECM handles all of it. Timing lights had a real place in automotive history, and there are still some older classic vehicles and carbureted engines where they matter. But if you drive anything built in the last 25 years, a timing light has no use case in your DIY toolkit. That money goes better almost anywhere else. Fifth, an engine hoist, unless you're genuinely planning to pull and reinstall a motor. Engine hoists, also called cherry pickers, are bulky, take up significant shop space, require proper rigging knowledge and safety awareness, and are typically used for major powertrain work most DIYers never attempt. If you're doing an engine swap or pulling a motor for a rebuild, the tool makes sense, and renting one locally is often cheaper than buying one anyway. But technicians commonly see drivers buy engine hoists based on 1. Ambitious project idea, finish the project, or abandon it, and then store a 200-pound piece of equipment in a garage for a decade. Rent it if you need it. That's the right call for most people. Here's the bottom line. The tools that save you money are the ones that let you do recurring jobs correctly and safely. Oil changes, brakes, electrical checks, tune-ups, inspections. The tools that waste your money are either too specialized for what you're actually doing, too cheap to do the job right, or solving a problem you're never actually going to have. Build your kit around what your specific car needs, not around what looks useful in a product advertisement. Start with the OBD2 scanner, the torque wrench, the floor jack and stands, and the multimeter. Those 4 alone will change how you approach your car and what you actually understand about it. Add the others as the jobs come up. You don't have to buy everything at once. Buy it when you need it. Buy it at the quality level that matches the job. And don't let a sale talk you into something that's going to sit on a shelf. If you found this useful, hit the like button and subscribe. I put out practical advice for drivers who want to make better decisions with their cars and their money. And we've got a lot more coming. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.